This happened to me last summer, and it still gives me chills to think about. That day, I went to the thrift store with my boyfriend, and as we were heading back home, I suggested we pick up some sushi for dinner at our nearby grocery store. As my boyfriend works night shifts, he was already feeling tired and suggested that I go to the grocery store while he goes back home. We live in the busy part of our city, where the mall, library, city hall, restaurants, and major stores are all a couple minutes away from our home. Not to mention, I live in a relatively safe city with little crime, so I was more than alright with going by myself.
As we parted ways, I was walking through the parking lot of the grocery store when a stocky man about 6'5", probably in his early to mid-40s, approached me. With a wide smile and wider eyes, he said, "Wow, you are stunning." I simply thanked him and tried walking away. He cut me off, saying, "I have never seen someone as beautiful as you before." I was immediately filled with dread. I looked back, hoping my boyfriend was still in sight, but it was no luck. It may seem like an exaggeration to be wary of a person right off the bat, but having read/watched true crime and horror stories for years, coupled with having extreme social anxiety and being a smaller woman with zero fighting skills, I have always sided with caution. Not to mention, with his eyes and smile, he honestly reminded me of a buffer Art the Clown from Terrifier, minus the clown costume and lack of talking. The man roped me into a one-sided conversation, asking me my name and how old I was. I gave him a fake name and told him I was 19. He laughed and said unnaturally excitedly, "That's good, that means you're a true woman now." My boyfriend later told me I should have lied and said I was under 18, as this may have made the man uninterested. From the red flags I got from the man, I seriously doubt that. He then stuck his phone out asking for my number. I refused, saying I had a boyfriend, and then he said, "And I just want to talk to you." I repeated that I had a boyfriend. It was unnerving how his smile never wavered despite showing that I wasn't interested, like he wasn't understanding, or he just didn't care. He sounded confused, but still grinning. He stepped towards me and asked, "So you don't want to cheat on your boyfriend?" Speechless, I stepped back and gave pleading looks to the people walking in and out of the grocery store. After the last time I refused, his smile suddenly dropped, while he placed his hand on my back, saying in a now cold, firm tone, "Come on, I have a nice car I could drive you around and let's check out one of these restaurants." Seeing a person's entire demeanor change with the flip of a switch is something I only saw in movies and TV shows, and seeing it in this situation fucking terrified me. Going into panic mode, I somehow found the courage to push myself off of him and almost shouted, "Sorry, I really have to go buy my groceries." Noticing that people were staring at us, his sick smile reappeared and said with a low voice, "Alright then, I'll see you later." I practically ran into the grocery store with so much relief. I glanced back, hoping to see him get in his car to try getting his license plate number, only to see the man just standing in the middle of the parking lot, leering at me. I called my boyfriend in the store, but it kept going to voicemail. I figured he was sleeping, and I was seriously scared to walk back home. I managed to calm myself down in the store, figuring the man must have been long gone. Yet, I was on high alert the entire walk home. It was starting to get dark, but I figured if I just stayed cautious and walked quickly, I would be fine. When I was approaching the crosswalk that led to my street, I heard a car pulling up to the sidewalk, followed by a sickeningly familiar voice barking, "Hey!" My heart dropped into my stomach. I glanced sideways at the car, with his unmistakable, now malicious-looking grin plastered on his face. The man's upper body was leaning out of his car window as if he was trying to reach out to me. He tauntingly called out, "So where's your boyfriend?" while cackling. From everything I've learned from true crime and horror stories, I figured it was best not to acknowledge the man. My mind racing while trying to appear composed, I knew I couldn't lead him to my house, and turning back to go to the mall or stores may have given away that I was terrified and trying to escape. Bless whoever designed my neighborhood, as the city's rec center was conveniently right next to my complex. I ignored him and casually crossed the street, quickening my pace as I headed into the rec center. I tried not to look back, scared that I would see the man running up on me with his wide grin, but I made it into the rec center and finally looked behind me. I assumed the man would have followed me in or waited for me in his car. Instead, he sped away down the street opposite from my house. With so much relief, I called my boyfriend, who woke up to my call. I was on the verge of breaking down, but managed to fill him in on everything. He rushed to the rec center, and after he helped me calm down, we walked home. My boyfriend asked if I got the man's license plate number, to which I felt like a fucking idiot. Not only was it too dark, but I was too consumed with fear for my own life that it didn't even cross my mind at the time. At the very least, I called the police, giving them a description of the man and the car he was driving. They say they would do what they could, but I haven't heard back from them since. I haven't seen that man since, not in person at least, because I still see that man's smile in my dreams, haunting me for countless nights, plaguing my mind. Thinking about the sadistic, glaring look he had in his car reminds me that he was overjoyed to realize that I was alone and vulnerable, that my seemingly safe city isn't as safe as I thought. At the same time, I feel so grateful that the man never found out where I live. But for all I know, he could be lurking around trying to harm other women like he tried to that night he almost trailed me home. For mine and the women in my city's sake, I hope I don't have to find out. I used to work at a small neighborhood gas station. I was working an opening shift at 6 a.m. with my best friend / coworker. We were doing our normal opening stuff, and as the sun came up, I went to get some ice from the back. For reference, the gas station building used to have a drive-thru, so we have that kind of window in the back. I glanced at that back window and realized there was a little bloody handprint on the back window. I looked closer and there were smudges of blood around the window handle that looked like someone was definitely attempting to slide it open. We were really freaked out, so we went to look around other potential entrances around the building. I looked at the window in front and noticed dried blood on the hole where we take money for gas from outside, like someone was trying to stick their hand in to get to something inside. I keep looking around and there was also dried blood on the front door handles, plus some splatters on the glass like someone was pounding on the glass. My friend and I were both freaking out at this point. So luckily, I had access to the security cameras, and I checked them for any motion detected during the night. At 5 a.m., there was a motion capture. We watched as a man with his arms covered in blood walked around the store trying to get in. The freakiest thing was usually the store is open at 5 a.m., but it happened to be a Sunday, so we opened at 6 a.m. Really dodged a bullet there. There were police lights in the distance on the camera, so we called the sheriff. He showed up pretty quick. He watched the security footage and confirmed it was a guy they picked up just a bit after 5:30. This is the craziest thing that ever happened to me in my 3.5 years of working at gas stations. One time as a child, I went with my family to the grocery store. It was our monthly trip to stock up on groceries, so we were going to be there for a while. I was about 12 at the time, so by that age I had a good understanding of how to read people. We started in the produce aisle and suddenly a strange man caught my eye. He was standing awkwardly close to us, sort of fake browsing the vegetables. His body language seemed off. He was standing with his back to us, but something seemed strange about the way he was positioned. As we slowly moved down the aisle, he would slowly rotate so his back was always facing us. As we got a little closer, I could tell he was wearing those see-behind glasses, those gimmick sunglasses that have hidden mirrors on the inside of the lenses so you could see behind yourself. He had a dirty gray zip-on jacket on and long dark messy hair. He had to be in his 40s. Our shopping went on. Wherever we went, I would see him standing there staring at me from across the store. He would keep his distance from us, but he was always within eyesight no matter where we went in the store. Eventually we got to the refrigerator aisles, and this is when it got weird. Whatever aisle we were in, he would quickly pace past us occasionally. At this point, he wasn't even trying to look like he was shopping. My mom and sis were starting to notice this and also seemed concerned. At one point, we were grabbing something off one of the shelves, and I could see him just standing on the opposite aisle, peeking through the shelves at us. His sunglasses were on still, but now his hood was up. We started to walk faster and do some random zigzags around the store to see if he really was following us and to try and lose him. But he would keep up, all in a very sneaky way at that. He would always be at the opposite end of the aisle, but he kept with us the whole time. By this point, my mom was concerned, so we pushed the cart up to the customer service area to talk to a manager about it. By this point, we lost him. We informed the manager and she was very helpful. She actually went to go find the guy and talk to him. We waited at the counter until she paced back to find us with a confused look on her face. She walked up to my mother and told us, "He said that you're his mom." By this point, my mom and sister were concerned. The manager rang us up and said we should leave and then they will escort the strange man. We walked out to the car, staying close to our mother, when we were met with a horrible sight. The man just standing across the parking lot across from our car with his head slightly tilted and a big grin on his face. We floored it out of there, but we could still see him just standing there watching us leave. Whoever that guy was in the sunglasses, let's not meet again.